This is like absolutely do not skip this step. This has to happen. If you do nothing that we've talked about today, you must get.
Welcome to Swift Coaches Academy, a podcast dedicated to bringing health and wellness professionals the uncensored truth behind what it really takes to succeed in the health industry with me, your host, Xenia Wood. As an accredited exercise physiologist and business owner for almost a decade, I'm on a mission to transform the lives of ambitious health professionals like you who want more and are ready to take action to create incredible impact in your careers and unlock financial freedom in your business. So join me as I speak candidly with industry leaders about the struggles and successes from within the trenches through thought-provoking conversations.
Ashley, thank you for coming back for part 2 today. How are you going?
Good, Xenia. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited for this conversation.
Me too. I think last time, for anyone who hasn't listened yet to the previous episode, we spoke about partnerships and how to start a partnership with businesses who share your ideal clients, and talked about the fact that you are actively doing that. You reached out, you had great success with that, which I'm super stoked with the DM scripts and exactly what to say and the follow-up messages. So anyone who wants to hear a bit more about that and maybe isn't at the stage of moving forward with a partnership, definitely recommend that. But today, what I wanted to do is another, I guess, little biz strategy behind the scenes session with you, because you've done that, you've reached out, and now you've decided to action some workshops with these businesses. So I want to talk specifically to how you can make the most of those workshops that you've set up with these partnerships and with these other businesses, and some key things that I like to always speak about with our students, and how to promote it best and how to get the most the best engagement or the outcome that you're looking for from that. So why don't we start with, maybe it would be helpful if you gave an example of a type of workshop that you have coming up, and we can dive into specifics for you today.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the workshops I'm currently in collaboration with is with a studio that also offers women's health physiotherapy. So they would like to run a guest masterclass where they have their women's health physiotherapist present first, and then me present second.
Okay, cool. So it's a bit of a collab even inside the workshop. It's not just you doing it.
Yes, with the goal that I can support the physiotherapy advice through the goal setting aspect of my workshop. So helping support the women be able to complete the rehab and exercises at home.
Cool. And just for anyone who didn't listen to our last episode, habit, mindset, goal setting coach, as I guess a brief overview of what you do. So that makes total sense. And obviously working with mums, so women's health physio, that is obviously quite aligned. And a lot of the people who go to a women's health physio are probably mums struggling with everything women's health, right?
Correct.
Cool. Alrighty. So we might talk about your specific scenario, but then I'll also make reference to maybe another workshop, or if you're going to do one in the future. I'm assuming not every workshop would be like co-presented, but most of the suggestions and advice I'm going to give you today will be relevant regardless, because it's more about like the setup and the promotion and the marketing side of things, at least, that we'll start with. And then when we go through like what you should say at the workshop or what you should have in your presentation, I'm not going to obviously tell you how to set up habits and create that part, but in terms of like an offer or what to do to get people interested in working with you, which I think is the main goal of the workshops that you're doing, right? Like these aren't $200-300 events where you're trying to make the money off of the initial event. The goal with most of these workshops that even I do are really to get leads to turn into clients to work with you ongoing, right?
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to get in front of my ideal client and spread the message to them.
Cool. Awesome. So in terms of promotion of the event, why don't you talk to me about what you and this other women's health physio business have already discussed, and I can give you suggestions on if that works, if we add things to it, what we do from there.
Yeah, definitely. So I only had the initial vibe check call that we spoke about in the last podcast with them on Friday. So we haven't done a lot of the super nitty-gritty stuff yet. But so far, options that have been made available has been an section in their monthly newsletter of like my logo, a little bit of what I do. They'd like to look at doing a flyer or two in their studio. And they are wanting or willing to put a couple of dollars into a couple of social media ads.
Okay.
So that's what they have indicated that they'd like to contribute. And then from my side of things, I also have social media ads, my email list, and potentially a page on the website.
Okay.
Separate to the landing page to sign up.
As in like that would take them to the landing page. It's like a button or something. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Is this landing page going to be collaborative, or are you going to be like, is that the page that you're both using for people to sign up?
That has not been confirmed yet. I would need to still upskill in this, but I would say we'd look at possibly some sort of shared Eventbrite page, and then we both have links that would take potential clients to that same landing page.
Yep. Okay, got it. And I think we spoke off air about Eventbrite previously as well as like a hosting platform, right? Just to confirm, this is a paid workshop that you're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it will be paid, but not to make money. It's a lower entry point, but it's more to have the attendees have put a small investment into it so that when they attend, they are more likely to want to engage and get that value back.
And show up as well, I would say. Yeah. So I would probably say in terms of price point of that, and I think we've already spoken about this as well, but anything under about $100, I would say is in that ballpark of generating warm leads who are actually interested in attending and have good intentions. I'm assuming you're in that ballpark with this.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Anything above that, I would say that it could be like a one-off thing, or that might be where I don't want to say where it stops, because you would always want to grab contact details and be able to help serve them more in the future. But I would say that anything over $100, it feels like the event is kind of the thing that you're working towards, as opposed to like a follow-up from that. So
yeah, definitely.
Cool. So in terms of promoting the event, I really like in terms of, you know, not just the workshop, but you've also obviously talked about partnering in terms of monthly newsletter. I would, you said flyers in the studio. I would potentially add like business cards on their desk, in their studio. Obviously, this is an in-person workshop. We can talk about different things that, you know, you could have someone listed on your website, or you could cross collaborate and say, you know, we recommend these people, whether it was online or in person. That's something else that you could do. I guess the idea of today, I don't want to overwhelm you and be like, do these 20 things, because it can get a lot. And I feel like every time I've done a workshop, I've been like, oh, let's add. But in terms of bare bones and things like that, I think definitely having somewhere that people can get tickets in exchange for contact details is the most important thing. So yes, you could have a landing page, Ash, but honestly, I think just having a button on your website that sends them straight to the Eventbrite page. Reason being is because ideally you don't want to send them to 3 different buttons and click through 7 things for them to actually have to then get to the actual paid workshop page, or even just put my details in. If you were doing this free, I would probably suggest potentially keeping it on your website and on a landing page where you just collect their contact details, and then you have like an automated series that says your confirmation ticket, and then like a couple days before or things like that. But because it is paid and because it's also collaborative, it probably makes sense to have it on a platform that can just take the money really easily, unless you already have a Shopify website or something set up, which is obviously getting into the nitty gritty, and it's probably a bit more big business when you're talking about that. But I really like the idea of Eventbrite. Some businesses will have their own paid channels where they already run events and things like that. So, I've done stuff with businesses like F45 before, and they've used like Mindbody as an app. And so people just have to log in and they can take payment through there. So that's another option that I've done before, or whatever the app is that they use for taking payments already. That can be a good thing, but I think Eventbrite's so easy, and you can co-host, I believe, with these events. So you can both be part of it, and then you can co-brand it. If there is a way potentially in future for you to be the one, everyone goes to your landing page, it's always better for you to have all the contact details and all the data, because then you can repurpose it. Not that you wouldn't give that to them as well, but they could go on your website and then see something else and want to work with you, and it just, you become the authority if it's your website. Similar to if you're the one taking the money, you typically end up being the one who has I guess the final say in the situation. And depending on what this is, sometimes it might be the other business, and that's fine as well. It doesn't mean that you have no control over what happens, but typically the person who controls the money in the situation is the one who's, I guess, taking charge. And I always like to put myself in that position if possible.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think Eventbrite's good. I would definitely be doing that. But yeah, I don't think at this stage for you, adding a landing page specifically for this is going to do anything other than delay people taking action, because it's like an extra step that's unnecessary right now because you want them to get to Eventbrite eventually. It just feels like another barrier to entry. Like every click is one step further from them achieving the outcome or being able to attend the event. So I think it's really important to keep in mind, you want to make it as quick and easy as possible for people to sign up or to pay for whatever it is that you have.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great.
Okay, cool. Have you thought about, so when you say social media channels, are you going to collaborate these posts? Have you got any sort of content already created that you can share with them, and so it's got like both faces or both brands on it?
Yeah, so again, that's still part of the nitty-gritty that hasn't been fully established yet. What I have done in the background is I've created sort of 3 templates where essentially it's like, this is the space where your logo would go. So there's the opportunity that the let's say the Facebook ad that people would see, it might be Swift Movement Academy presents, or it would be, you see, here's the Swift Movement Academy logo on the side, and here's the location where we would list, your gym or your studio.
Yeah.
So, and I know that so far in the businesses I've been working with, I can see consistency in some of the posts that they do for different events that they've run. So I would assume that there's going to be a combination of posts that their audience is already familiar with, where I would say my information will be added into it, and then some posts that my audience is already familiar with, and then adding their information into that.
I would probably try and just have one thing, as opposed to you jumping onto their branding and them jumping onto yours. I would just go with having one, because otherwise you're duplicating everything for no reason other than to make more work for both of you. So either go with what they've got if they've already got it, or if you have your templates and you're like, I've already put it sorted, I would just keep it consistent so it does feel quite collaborative, and it's not like, is this 2 events or 1 event?
Sure. Yep.
But I love the idea of templates for content. We have some of that too that we give our biz students, so you will have access to that, and anyone who is keen to work with us or signs up would also get access to that sort of stuff as well. I think it's just important when we talk about like social media channels to be cross-promoting, but also be talking about it frequently. I think one of the things that often happens is we talk about it once or twice and go, oh, why did no one buy? Or why did no one sign up to this thing? And people need, it used to be like 7 touch points. Now it's like 21 touch points, and it's only increasing with the amount of eyeballs and places that we can put our stuff. And also, I would say the level of skepticism in the market, right? If you have a physical location and it's a women's health studio, there's probably lower skepticism. But if you're an online business, or if you decide to do something with someone else online, people are going to probably be highly skeptical about like, what is this? Is this worth my time, even if it is free, or is it worth my money? So having multiple touch points, talking about the same thing, different benefits to it. And similar to when I spoke with Sam, one of our other students, I don't know if you listened to that podcast recently, but about selling and about the fact that we want to be talking about it super, super often so that we can talk to the benefits, not the features of the program or the workshop or whatever it is, right? So what most people tend to do, I find particularly in health and the wellness industry, is that we talk about like what you will get in terms of like you will get a book or a trigger ball, and we're going to go through 10 exercises to improve this. And it's very features based or like logic driven rather than outcome based in terms of transform your exercise week into something you love and fits into your schedule or something like that. I think when you're doing your copywriting in terms of captions or emails, things like that, especially early on. So let's say that you have like, I'd probably suggest at least a 3-week build up before the actual event. Especially early on, I'd be talking to all of the benefits, all of the outcomes, all the results that people will get as a result of coming. And then when you get closer to the date, I would be putting some more things in about the T's and C's, or like what they actually do get in terms of those 10 exercises or the 3 strategies or practical tips and tools that come with the workshop, because we buy more off of emotion rather than logic. But there are going to be some people who want those T's and C's as well. So I wouldn't say exclude them or avoid them. I would just say that I've found that early on, people are going to buy who are already keen, already know, like, and trust you. They'll buy based on emotion or gut feel. And then the people who are a bit more skeptical will probably take a bit more time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you've mentioned previously in the group calls, it's like people don't buy something because of all of the work they're going to have to do for it. Like they don't want to do 3 sessions a week, but it's like they will buy based on the outcomes and the results and the feelings that they're going to be able to experience like after engaging with the product or service.
Yeah. And that could still mean 3 sessions a week, right? But if you tell me that it's going to take all this hard work, I'm going to have to sit there and I'm going to have to, think about all these things that are really uncomfortable for me, then I'm going to be potentially less likely to want to do that. I think we understand that changing habits takes time, or building an exercise routine takes time. Reinforcing how hard it's going to be through all the things you need to do and how sweaty you need to get and can feel a little deflating, and you want to build people up and say the outcome of this is going to be this key result or this key outcome. Do you have clarity yet on what the outcome is for the workshop? So I know obviously you want people to sign up into working with you one-on-one after this, or potentially in like a group setting, but for the workshop itself, do you have like a key result that you're getting these people who are coming?
So within the workshop, we cover three keys essentially throughout it. So the first one is super mum mindset. So essentially they walk out of it with the confidence and sort of like backing themselves up with like, yes, they are an awesome mum. It's not they're trying to be an awesome mum, they are. The second one is sort of like some energy tips. So it's like making sure like their sleep quality is as good as possible. So the result for that is them feeling like they have the energy to tackle the day and the energy to pursue their goals and targets. And then the final one is essentially goal setting that actually works. So it's like, how many times have you said you want to do something and you think you've trialed and you failed and you're sick of that frustration? So it's removing that frustration and having the confidence and building those wins as you're taking each step towards your goals.
I wonder if the goal setting that actually works, that still feels like a little bit of work. I definitely hear you, and I think you're speaking to the pain point of the frustration of setting goals and not achieving them. I wonder if you could get clear on what the goal is, knowing your target audience is mums and what they're actually trying to achieve. So let's say that is conjunction with this rehab program. It could be completing your rehab and being pain-free because of solid habits or something like that, rather than like goal setting is still a feature rather than an outcome, right? Like no one sets goals and they're like, cool, did it. Or it's about whatever that goal is. So maybe that's something for you to workshop just a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. And the, I guess, goal of the goal setting section was that was the section that's really going to support the product or services of the business that I'm collaborating with. So I guess there is opportunity there to almost, like you said, rename that section to benefit or to like tie in with the business that I'm doing the workshop with.
Yeah, cool. I also love the idea of the confidence that they are already capable and things like that. And I also potentially think that rewording that a little bit in terms of that they can do things, they can take action, because I believe confidence is a muscle and we have to use it to build it. And so for me, it just feels like, yes, there's definitely going to be some benefit to helping people feel good and being ready and feeling confident to then take action, to then change their life, to then put these habits in place. And potentially that's what you are doing. But I just think the wording that you chose before was confidence that they are already a super mum, probably giving them evidence as to how that is in effect. And that might not be your section, but in terms of providing them with areas where they have done great things in the past, so that it means they can do more or continue to be better and whatnot in the future. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, because you don't want to fall into the habit of like, hey, I've made it, like I'm here. It's like, okay, I now have the confidence, like you said, to take further action and to keep growing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If you basically built them up and their confidence was so good, they're like, well, I don't need to change anything. And it's like, well, we were here because you're struggling with something. So we want to build up that confidence and then make sure that they're moving forward. They're not stuck in that, I feel great about not being where I want to be, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Still opening or creating a little bit of a gap between where they are and where they want to be, so that it encourages them to take action. Cool. Alrighty. What about early bird pricing? Have you thought about that? Because I think that's a really great way to get people who are like your raving fans or the other businesses' raving fans to work with you if it is a paid event. And then, I mean, it depends on how many seats that you have capacity for. Obviously, this is in person, so it's not going to be unlimited.
Yes. So with the women's health physio that I mentioned earlier, we made the decision, instead of having a discount to the price for an early bird, we've decided that if you either like first X people to register, or if you register before X date, you go in the draw to win. So they have the opportunity to have more value added to their experience. This is all still getting locked in, but we are thinking of doing a complimentary consult with the physiotherapist, and then a complimentary coaching call with me.
For
that they
everyone
can
or
go-
just the early
Just
bird?
to go into the draw to win one of those.
Okay, cool.
So
I
like they have
would-
the opportunity to add value rather than just us saying like, hey, we think our workshop is worth say $50. But just for turning up, it's actually only 30. So it's like we don't want to discount ourselves straight away, but we want to be able to give more value to the potential attendees.
Yeah. Can you just explain to me how it went from 50 to 30? I just got lost.
Oh, that was just a random number example that I threw out. So rather than discounting, say, a $50 workshop to $30, we're going to keep it at $50, but you can go into the draw to win even more value.
Gotcha. I like that. It may work, it may not. I think early bird pricing and price reductions, even if they're perceived reductions, like let's say you believe the workshop's worth $50, so early bird pricing is $50, and then if you purchase after this date, it's $65. I think that can work really well, and that's my recommendation whenever I'm doing like discounts. It's actually the price you want to charge, and then you add 10-20% or something like that to something that's not the early bird, so it's perceived to be a discount, but you would have been willing to do it for the early bird pricing for everyone. Another way to do it, I mean, no right or wrong, you've got to check your audience and see what's going to work, but I definitely think adding urgency or scarcity in some capacity can be a great motivator. I personally don't think creating going in the draw to win is enough of a like wow for me to want to sign up early.
Yeah,
I think that it's a potential, it would have to be really, really good, and I would have to potentially get something really great. But again, like not everyone wins in that scenario. Do you know what I mean? Like let's say 10 people get early bird, only one of them is going to actually win. Whereas if you did an early bird price, everyone who signs up early all win something or get some sort of benefit. So, I mean, just food for thought with that, and depending on what you want to do. But I definitely think urgency and scarcity. So urgency being the first 10 people get $10 off, or they get, you know, they might get a physical habit notebook, or they might get something else of value as well. And then the draw to win might be something that feels a little bit more like a win, everyone getting that. Or the scarcity of, you know, we only have X number of spots, which you would, right? Like you don't have unlimited space in a physical location. So I would definitely be putting that there and saying, you know, only this many, and continuing to talk about this many left, or only a few tickets remaining, or whenever the date is for an early bird cutoff as well. Can be great, because when you're running physical in-person events and you're booking dates, and potentially, you know, because you're partnering with the business, you're not paying extra for the facility, which is absolutely what I recommend and is great. But sometimes if you are doing things like that, then you're potentially going backwards before you go forwards financially. So it's great to have some early bird sales in to at least get you back up to like net zero before you start actually hosting it. Cool.
Yeah, I love those suggestions. It's definitely really good food for thought and different perspectives on it. So I like that a lot.
I also like the emailing the database, or the monthly newsletters, things like that. I think that you can collaborate there, use and leverage their audience. At the moment, obviously, you're a bit of a small fish and you're going out to businesses that are already established, which is awesome for you. In terms of the strategy for you in partnering is obviously that you can lean on their database of clientele, current and past. The good thing here is that you want to make sure that it's not just their current clients who are seeing this, but it's a reason for them to email their old clients to get them back into the facility as well, and to re-engage them potentially in their services or your services. So that's something that's really cool. Obviously, you want to email your email database too if you don't have one, or anyone listening is like, why would I need an email database? This is the only thing other than like a phone number that you actually own of someone. You don't own your social media channels. You don't own YouTube. You don't, you know, the things you own are the details that the clients give you specifically. So having something in place, whether it is an event or a a freebie or a download that you're giving away in exchange for contact details that you own the property of and you have the ability to reach out personally and directly is really, really important and powerful, because we know how much, someone's Instagram just gets shut down, and then all those people and all that effort, it's like you have nothing to show for it and you have no way to then reach back out to them. I think that's really important that we have that. So emailing the database, early bird pricing. What else are we talking about so far? We've talked about social media channels, flyers in the studio. I would also go as far, and business cards. I would also go as far as posters with little QR codes that go straight to that Eventbrite or wherever you're putting that. I definitely think that that's helpful. I've also got written here as notes, speaking to other businesses in the area. So you could go to other businesses who work with mums. Maybe you're not planning on running a workshop for them, but maybe it's a hairdressing salon or something like that. And they have a lot of mums in their facility, or your ideal clients, whoever that is. And you could invite them and or invite their clients as well. Something that, and this is getting into the weeds, and this is definitely like a higher end, not higher end strategy, but this is, I would not say to do this for your first workshop, but something that I think if someone's a bit of a veteran with this, that you could do is have a bit of an affiliate code or link. You would see this a lot with clothing brands who do this really well. And often what the clothing brands do is they will say, oh, you get 10% off for mentioning like this gym that you go to with the gym's name as the code. I would go one step further with this stuff and also give that gym a kickback. So it's 10% off for the gym member to sign up to your workshop, but it's also 10% of the sale, if you're doing it paid, goes to the gym per person they get to sign up, or whatever the percentage is that you want of the sale price. The reason why I would do that is because people are going to be far more incentivized to say, hey, you should go to this thing, if they also have a benefit and a reason to say it, rather than just they're good people. I think it adds fuel to the fire. And even if I was going to refer to you anyway, I'm now going to make a conscious effort more frequently because there's also something in it for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so just clarifying that I have understood that. Let's keep with your hairdresser studio example, and let's say there's a flyer poster with a QR code there. If someone in the hairdressing studio scans and uses the code hair, then they get X% off the workshop. And then I would also send back to that hairdresser studio $10 or whatever agreed upon percentage it is.
Yep.
Okay,
exactly.
great.
Yep. Yeah. So basically and so this is where, again, I would make your early bird price the actual price you want to charge, because you do need to take into account these marketing expenses. And I find that a word of mouth referral, even if it is from the hairdressing salon down the road, is going to be often more warm than some random on the internet who just saw an ad because someone they already know, like, and trust has recommended it. And so it's effectively like a warmer referral. So you can do that with online events or in person. I know a lot of places that do that online in like the course creator world. If you recommend their course and they sign up as a result of you actually get part of the cost that they paid for the course. And it's a great way to grow, like your brand. And you can lean on the know, like, and trust factor of that business to build your brand credibility and authority as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that that's like a day one strategy. I feel like that's like when you've got other things in place, and definitely not to feel like there's so much going on that you could do. These are all just options, right? You definitely don't have to do all of those. The other thing I wrote down is like a community group potentially. So a WhatsApp chat, a Facebook group, going on like a learning platform and having them all find each other through there before the date can be a great way to build hype, to continue to add value to these people. And then those are going to be people who are going to network with each other, and you can grow the community as well of people who are interested in similar things. I think that that's a great way to maintain engagement and continue to give more value by keeping them in a bit of a community or a hub as well. That's something you can create for all your events, and they all go into that same community.
Yeah, so not necessarily a specific community per event, but just direct everyone towards the same space.
Yeah, and I would say for you, that would be your community, right? So that would be specifically for you, for habits, for goal setting, for mums, not necessarily for women's health physiotherapy.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's another way. And you could even talk about that at the event, right? And they could join it when they're there as well. That's another thing that could be helpful.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Because I know you've said you've had success with your Facebook groups in the past as well, and growing and collaborating through those.
I feel like it is a great place to, if you're active in there and you're putting things up and adding value, it can be really helpful.
Yeah, fantastic.
Cool. We talk about gathering details. I think this is probably really important in terms of having the client details and being able to do that.
Bye, Leopold.
Yeah.
We can pause and cut that section out. I will just mention that so Julia knows that last little bit where I was wafting before you looked away.
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, cool. So the next section would be gathering the client or the attendee details. This has to happen before the event. I know so many people who are like, oh yeah, we're just going to get them to rock up, and you don't know how many people are attending. And it can be really hard to then give them more information or to make sure that they're coming, to send them reminder emails or text messages or whatever it is. This is like absolutely do not skip this step. This has to happen. If you do nothing that we've talked about today, you must get their details. And so this should happen before the event. So again, it could be through Eventbrite. You can do free events on Eventbrite. This is where, Ash, if you were doing a free event, you could have your landing page and just be gathering their details on that. And this is where a QR code from a poster or, a link in your bio or things like that can all send to a landing page. But please, please, please get everyone's contact details before the event. In the unlikely scenario that maybe you can't do that, for example, I've worked with gyms before and they're like, oh, we'll gather it. We're doing it. It's members only. We've got all their details. We'll just let you know on the day. You either need to negotiate that you can get those contact details from everyone who was there, or what I like to do, so you just don't have to chase people up, is as soon as they arrive, they sign a waiver form that's like super basic that says like you agree to participate and whatever. And it's got like name, phone number, email somewhere that they have to sign when they're there. Or even just like I've literally handed out a piece of paper before and said, chuck your name, email, phone number on here. We've got some freebies we're going to send out to you, and I just need to know where to send it.
Yep.
So giving them a reason to give you their details, I think, is important if it's at the event. If it's before the event, obviously they're going to understand that they're getting reminder emails or value already. But if it's at the event, and I have worked with businesses before that are reluctant to give you contact details of people before they're at the event because it's maybe members only or something like that, definitely get them to sign a waiver form or gather the details when they walk in the door for the event, so that you can then go and not only give them the value that I think you should be giving them afterwards, but as well as being able to repurpose that, calling everyone up, like depending on how big the event is, right? Like if you have under 30 to 50 people attend this event, I would be actually calling and or emailing every single person after the event and saying like, hey, how did you find it? How was it? Talk through what action have you taken? What have you already done? What are you still struggling with? And it can be like a 10-minute thing, but that's almost like a stepping stone into, well, if people need help, then you can book them in for like a proper like strategy call or like sales call, basically, if they're looking for more support. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, increasing those touch points as well.
Yeah, cool. All right, so gather those details, definitely follow them up. Follow up is where the money is made, in the follow up. I've heard this so many times, and not following up, like we spoke about last episode on the podcast, can I guess not following up can feel good because you feel like potentially you're not annoying or bugging them, but often people forget, or they have busy lives or stuff's going on, and it's a prompt, it's a touch point. Like if you were called after an event you went for $50, like how much would you be like, holy crap, like these people really care about me, like they're checking in to make sure that I did the things that I said I was going to do, or that I'm still getting support. Like I think that's a way of going above and beyond rather than an annoyance. And even if it means you get 1, 2, 3 clients from this, like that's a great win from one event, really. Especially if you're working solo, you only need to do that. What if you got 2 people per event, you do 15 events, you got 30 clients, you're probably at full capacity. Like it doesn't take much for you to make this quite viable and profitable for you as a workshop presenter.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, what else have I got? Yeah, so regardless of where the event is, if it's a partnering businesses client base or event page, just making sure that you're able to get contact details of them as well is a huge, huge must. Then I would also say, in terms of best case scenario before that event, when you do have their contact details, confirm their attendance. So send them a confirmation message, then add value before the event. So if you are able to do this, Ash, what I would be doing for you is maybe you send them out to like a little questionnaire for them to fill out beforehand. That's like 3 or 5 questions, something simple, or maybe it's a habit tracker that they can print out and put on their fridge, or maybe it's I don't know what it needs to be for you, but something that gives them a ton of value beforehand, so they almost feel indebted regardless of whether they paid for the workshop or not. They're like, wow, now I really want to attend because I'm already getting value and I haven't even gone yet. Have you got anything in mind for that?
I think we have a few freebie worksheets already on our website, to help with that sort of stuff. So maybe, sending them almost like an exclusive one that's not on the website that can then tie into the workshop.
I don't even think it needs to be exclusive all the time, because that's obviously going to create more work for you. It can be, depending on what you want to do, but I would argue that most people who are going to go on to this event, right, are going to have no idea that these workshops, these freebies, these templates even exist. So I would just give them something you already have. And this is, I guess, the great thing about scaling, and the great thing about having a niche, is that you can then repurpose a lot of this stuff. So you don't need to create a new, like it's friggin' ridiculous. I used to do these workshops and I used to create a new thing every single time for every single facility. And it was like unique to them and super personalized and individualized. And the amount of time it took me to recreate basically the same stuff, or like, I would do a low back workshop, then I'd do a shoulder workshop, then I'd do a knee workshop, and then I'd do a hip workshop. And I was like, Xenia, stop creating more work for yourself, right? So now we have 3. We have shoulder and neck, spine, and knee, I believe. And we've just like really systemized them. We have everything ready to go. And so we can either do one of those at a facility, or what I've actually done in the past that we haven't mentioned today is I've done like a 3-piece workshop. So every fortnight we'd run one for 6 weeks, you'd run a workshop on different things, and the touch points ongoing can actually help to build a lot of credibility. And for people who are 1, 2, 3 time convincers, we call them, in terms of sales or whatnot. They need to see more of you before they're ready to purchase. That can be a really great strategy as well. So potentially you have a habit workshop and then a goal setting workshop and then a something else like an exercise work, whatever it is. But within what you're helping them with, you could even do it like that. Similar to if you're going to do like a workshop / webinar online, you could do one, or you could do like a boot camp or a challenge, where I've seen people who do 3 or 4 day events, and it's like an hour each day, and it helps those people who need more touch points to feel good about saying yes and taking you up on whatever it is you have to offer by the end of that series, I guess. So something that you could use in the future, or, you know, you could go, hey, this workshop went really well. Why don't we do another one in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that? Enough time that they've got a little bit of space and, you know, aren't doing it every single day or every single week. Potentially in an in-person thing could work. But just to build more credibility, and people who can't attend physically in person, the first one might be able to attend the second one as well.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great.
Awesome. The other thing that I wrote down is obviously add value, like we just said, before they attend, but then give them a reason to show up. So especially if it's free, it's really important. Like a lot of people are like, yeah, but the content that I'm delivering at the workshop is worth showing up, but they don't know that yet. They haven't been there. They don't maybe know who you are, especially if you're leaning into this other business's brand credibility. They're like, oh, yep, they're putting an event with this random chick who I've never heard of. So I would potentially have freebies that everyone gets, or bonuses, or there's this huge secret that you're revealing, or, you know, the 5 tips, the strategies that got me from here to here, or got our clients from this place to this place. So showing that you can transform and help people transform, and like making it really clear in terms of, it's effectively a hook, like how to master your habits in 3 key steps. Something like that can feel quite easy to digest, and it gives me a reason. I want to know what the 3 things are, right? So that can be something that's almost embedded into your workshop, but I would also promote it beforehand, saying we're going to be giving away this or whatnot. Like I've done before, I don't know if you've seen this. We actually gave away on a webinar $200 cash to someone who just showed up, and they had to be there from the start to the end of the workshop. But like, that's a huge reason. And when I was talking before at the start, when you said, you know, we might give extra value to one person, I think that is where it works. So
Sure.
everyone's getting those secrets revealed, everyone's getting some downloads, some bonuses, and one person wins 6 weeks of free training or $200 cash. Often cash incentives are great because they can spend it wherever they want, and it's not, I have to use it with the business, but choose your own adventure with what you want to do with this stuff and what works for you. But yeah, I guess those are a fair few options as to reasons for people to show up.
Yeah, definitely. I remember your $200 one, and it was also, you could get additional entries if you shared something on your social media during the workshop, and you referred to it a few times throughout as well, you know, so anyone that was tempted to drop off were like, oh yeah, that's right, like we've got the $200 that we could get. So I think it was really powerful.
Yeah, and I think that works probably best in terms of people who are going to drop off in a webinar versus a workshop in person. Like people aren't often going to get up and
just stand up and leave.
Yeah. So I think, you know, thinking about I guess the platform that you're using or how you're delivering it can also lend you to how you do it. For example, I may not post people things in the mail to a free webinar, but for a workshop, you might give them something free that costs you $2 or something like that. That's a physical item, because you don't have to go, like, it's not a huge expense for you as well. But if you're doing an online webinar and you got the time, you could absolutely post it. But if you got worldwide clients, it makes it a little more challenging, right?
Definitely.
Cool. Alrighty. Based on promoting the event, getting contact details, and then adding value, is there anything in that you have questions about, or anything that feels unclear?
Everything so far that we've discussed is super clear, and I've loved your additional perspectives that I haven't thought about yet. So that's been really, really good. I would say one question, possibly going back to the promotion. Obviously, people's attention is limited, especially on social media. You need something to get them to stop and actually engage with the piece of content. Do you have any recommendations surrounding, I suppose, the amount of detail that would go into those social media posts? Like, do they need to see, an image where it's like, here is all of the workshop details and all the things you're going to get out of it? Or here is just simply a significant hook, like how I took myself to 100K in X months, and then get them to engage? Or is it just a combination of both, and just see over time what your audience engages with?
Yeah, great question. I think similar to how I said before, in terms of start with the emotion with what you're posting and then lead towards more of the logic-based stuff closer to the date, I would do a similar thing. So I would start with the emotion and the outcome that they're going to get. You want to show social proof, so I'd show testimonials, screenshots. Even if you have none of that, you can talk about your own personal experience and how it's helped you to get from A to B. Or, you might have helped your mom, right? She might not be a paying client, but she could have benefited from some suggestions or advice that you gave. And is there a screenshot text message that you could use? I think showing the real raw testimonial, whether it's someone's video face to camera or it's a screenshot of a result or something, works much better and reduces skepticism versus like you typing out what they said. Like, you could have written anything. They might not have said that. That client might not even exist, but it just, if it looks like it was crafted, people are going to have high levels of skepticism. So yeah, I would start with the emotion, make sure that you have a ton of social proof, talk about the outcomes, and then closer to the date, talking about a little bit more of the logic behind it. But all of the time, you would have a call to action that takes them to the landing page or the Eventbrite page. And that's where they get to see all the T's and C's of not just the outcomes, but the actual, you do want to have the features or some of them in that as well. The idea with any content or marketing is obviously initially grab their attention. Secondly, get them to make the next step. I think it's really important. I think what a lot of people do is they go from, you saw my post on social media, come work with me for 12 weeks. It's like, whoa, like you've asked me to like become your girlfriend and we haven't even like gone on a first date. So you're just trying to get the next step in the path. And for them, it is getting them to the Eventbrite page, right? Or it is getting them to comment a word in the caption or in the section below the actual post, right? You're just getting them to take one teeny piece of action towards the outcome that you want, little by little, increasing what that looks like. So the first thing might be comment. The second thing might be you send them a link, then you want them to click on that link. And then the third thing is getting them to get a ticket. So I would make sure that you're not thinking about in the first post, it's not like buy a ticket for $50. It is, what is the next step? So the next step is click on the link. So that's all you need them to do. Because when they get there, they'll know that it's $50 and they'll know how, like, they'll get to that step. Does that help?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Alrighty. The only other thing that I wanted to talk to you about today was the offer or the invitation. So when you're at the workshop, you actually, if it's designed to be lead generation, you actually want to pitch to them or invite them to work with you. And again, use scarcity, use urgency. You want to get them to take the next step. Ones that have worked well for me before in the past is during the workshop, you get them to scan a QR code and basically just book a time with you for like a 15-minute follow-up. So instead of you potentially calling everyone just off the bat and they're not available and whatever, at the workshop time, you bring up a QR code that takes you to your calendar and they book in a time that works for them. And maybe you're going to talk about the 3 things that they've taken action on or something like that. And then that is your opener for anyone who is looking for more support to then book like a 45-minute strategy session or something like that to work with you ongoing and to pay for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool. You could also add, like I said, scarcity or urgency. So it could be an exclusive offer that maybe you slightly reduce the price on what you would normally charge specifically for the next 24 hours for anyone who wants to sign up. You could have scarcity in terms of only 5 people can work with me on this, or the urgency would be X number of people, or the time frame being the urgency as well. Have you figured out what your offer is yet?
As in separate to my coaching service?
Well, what you're going to offer at the workshop. It could be the same thing, but like in terms of adding urgency or scarcity specifically for these people. It could be the same offering, but
I mean, I do have scarcity in the sense that I can only take on so many spots.
Do you know exactly what that number is? And would you be willing at the event to say, because if you said I've only got 20 spots, it's probably
very scarce.
Yeah. Unless you had 3,000 people at the event, like relative.
Yeah, relative. It would probably be somewhere in the 3 to 7 range.
I would probably go with, like, most people could potentially, if you are selling it, you could absolutely take something like 7, but could you take 7 people tomorrow, right? Maybe for the week of the workshop, I can only take 2 people next week, right? And so it's true scarcity, or maybe it's I only take 4 people a month. So it's like, if you want in now, you got to get in now. Otherwise you might be waiting until next month. So I think it's like when you do ongoing evergreen style where you enroll people, you work with people whenever they're ready, I think having some sort of level of scarcity in terms of how many people you can service or onboard per week or month can be a way to create scarcity that truly exists. I'm not about faking scarcity and saying I've only got 5 spots, and you see all these people who put that stuff up, and I'm like, that's a lie. You will absolutely take 20 people on. So I like to be in integrity with that, because if one person calls you out or figures out that you didn't do that, then you obviously just lose all that credibility.
Yeah, definitely. Because all it takes is one person to, post in the community group, be like, oh, I'm a new member. Yeah, this is great. And like 10 other people are like, oh yeah, me too. And it's like, hang on, I said I could only take 3 next week. So
yeah, totally. Cool. Yeah, I think creating the offer and making sure that that's clear. Something that I would also recommend if you're starting out with this, I would absolutely, or if you don't have a high volume of leads or potential people who are interested to work with you, I would always do a strategy session, or basically a sales call, because you'll have a higher chance of getting them in when you can talk to them one-on-one. When you're starting out, always recommend that, right? That's what I used to do with my webinars that were online. We would always have one-on-one calls for anyone who was just interested or even considering it. Then as you level up, now I've sold to groups at the end of a workshop or a webinar and given them really strong urgency, really strong scarcity, and a ton of value as to like, why now? And if it's below, say, like probably $2,000 at the max, then you can do that. If you're wanting to work with people longer term than that or whatnot, it's probably best to then still do like high ticket stuff, still best to do a one-on-one sales call, even if you have high volume of leads. But I would say for you, Ash, absolutely do the sales call with every single person. You'll have a much better turnout, and it's much harder to sell to a group when you can't talk to their specific goals or needs. And then when you're getting, too many people that you can't handle it, that's when I would transition to potentially selling to a group, but that's probably a little way off at the moment for you. Cool.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds good. So yeah, like you said, like have a link there so they can sign up straight away for a, complimentary discovery call.
Yeah.
I only have the capacity to take on X people in the next fortnight.
Yeah,
Things
you
like
can
that.
do that, or you can even get, what I think actually works better is every single person who attends gets a 15-minute follow-up with you.
Yeah.
Because you will get to talk to everyone. And let's say that not everyone's ready to work with you or take the next step. They are going to come to you when they are ready because of how much value you've given them without having them even pay you for it, even if the workshop obviously like pays for itself. So yeah, I would probably do 15 minutes, so you can sort of almost use it as a bit of a screening tool to see if they are ready to take action, and then go into booking a second call or working with them if they are just ready to jump in then and there.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great.
Cool. All right. Summarizing, promoting the event. We want to talk about potential for early bird pricing. We want to promote it everywhere. This can be through affiliates. This can be through collaborative social media platforms. This can be through email marketing, posters, flyers, other businesses in the area. Tons of ways to market. I do like Eventbrite as a hosting platform, but you can obviously have your own landing page as well, and then potentially creating a community group where everyone can be involved in. Then we talked about gathering attendee details as an absolute must. If you do nothing else for any of your workshops, please, please, please get their details, a waiver form, a QR code, Eventbrite again, or the businesses who you're partnering with, their booking system, some way to do that. And then we talked about adding value in terms of giving them a reason to show up, and also potentially giving them freebies or additional resources or things before they get to the workshop or the webinar. And then when you're there, making sure that you make an offer. I see so many people who are just like, oh, yep, and this is all my value. Okay, bye. And it's like, or like, follow me on Instagram. It's like, you don't own access to sure, you can get them to follow you on Instagram, but like, please get their contact details as well, and offer something to work with you. In the rehab space, we normally do like a $297 rehab reset, but if they sign up from a workshop, it's $149. So they save basically $150 just from signing up then and there. And we use scarcity. We say we only have two or three spots available per workshop facility, because we know that not everyone's ready to take action. And so we literally just take 3 flyers or 3 vouchers and we're like, who wants it? So that's our genuine way of using scarcity. And I guess another example for anyone who maybe works in that space or wants to use that strategy as well. Cool beans. Anything else that you wanted to ask? Anything that you feel unclear on in terms of what you need to do for your workshops coming up?
No, that has really added clarity to the next steps that I'm going to be taking. So that's very beneficial for I'm going to focus my energy and effort over the next week or two.
Cool beans. Where are you going to start?
I would say probably getting those templates sorted for the the flyers, the brochures, the social media stuff. It's like you mentioned, I think in the last podcast episode, you don't want them to be, the other business to be doing lots and lots and lots of work. So being able to present to them like, here's something we can use, let's go. And then I think getting that Eventbrite up and running.
Cool.
As well.
Awesome. I love it. And I think the event you said is in June, right? This first one?
Yes.
Cool. So anyone who's listening to this who is a mum who lives in Brisbane who wants that, we will pop a link in the show notes as well to that Eventbrite page so that you can get access to that too.
Amazing.
Perfect. Awesome. Alrighty. I will speak to you next week on our group call.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Jigs. See ya.
Bye.
I
have a tiny favor to ask of you, and that is to just hit that subscribe button if you have not done it yet. If you've made it this far, then I hope that this has been valuable for you and for us to get more incredible guests in front of your earlobes and faces. If you're watching us on YouTube, then please do that now. And if you have any feedback or suggestions for me, or something that was a golden nugget that really stood out to you in this episode, I would absolutely love if you flicked me a message over on Instagram at Xenia Wood Official. Until next episode, and in whatever you do, move swiftly.